welcome to the end of week 4. You're almost halfway through the course. For this week's mini project, we're going old school and building Pong. Let me tell you how old Pong is. Pong was developed before I actually was a kid. It first came out in 1972 when I was 11 years old. I didn't really start playing arcade games till the late 70s. I kind of played a lot of Asteroids in my heyday. That's why we're doing Asteroids as our final mini project. Turns out Pong is still kind of a game that you can play and have some fun with. And so what I'm going to do in this lecture is I'm going to do 4 things. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of kind of the design choices you'll need to make as you build Pong. I'll show you a program template we're going to provide that has a lot of code that'll help get you started. I'm going to show you a demo of my implementation of Pong so you see how it works. And then kind of as a last fun treat, I'm going to bring in Scott, and we're going to play a game of Pong for ultimate video game supremacy. You don't want to miss it. Okay, before I look at the program template, let's talk a little bit about some of the design choices you're going to have to face whenever you implement Pong. So Pong is played on a rectangular table. It was kind of the canvas when we did our ball physics example. We have a ball that's moving in a straight line, and it bounces off the walls in a predictable manner using basic physics. So what's the game aspect of it? Well, there are 2 players, and each player controls a paddle using some keys. So for example, here we have a paddle that can move up if the keys hit up. It can also move the paddle down if we hit a down key. Here's a second paddle over here. It can move up or it can move down. So we can't move it left and right. We can only move it up and down. Here we have the ball. The ball's moving around on the table, and it's fine. If it bounces on the top and bottom walls, just bounces normally. However, if it strikes this line right here, we're going to call this a gutter. Then the point has 2 things that can happen. If the paddle is not behind the gutter here, it touches this line, then the opposite person receives a point. So for example, here, this player's score would be implemented. If it touches this gutter over here, then this player's score is implemented. Now what happens if the paddle happens to be behind the gutter whenever it strikes it? Well, then as we see over here, this ball actually just bounces off normally, whereas this one here scores a point. So why do we have a gutter? Why don't we just let it bounce off the edge of the canvas? The reason we added a gutter is because this simplifies your collision code. In this version of Pong, it's impossible for the ball to strike the corner of the paddle or strike the side of the paddle. You only have to model what happens if it strikes the side of the paddle that faces the interior of the Pong table. That will make your collision code much easier. In fact, it'll just be kind of collision code for a vertical wall. So that's kind of the starting point on the design of Pong. Let's go on over here now and talk about your paddle geometry. So in the template I'm going to provide you, there's some constants. There's the height right here. So what's the height? The height is the height of the Pong table. It's the height of the canvas. There'll be 2 variables. There's going to be the paddle height. That's this dimension right here. And there'll be a paddle width. That's this dimension right here. So the height and the width of the paddle are going to be important things. For example, the width of the gutter, how far the gutter extends off from the side of the canvas, is going to be determined by the paddle width. In my template code, I have to model the position and the velocity of the paddle. So to do that, for each paddle, I have a variable of the form paddle position. That's the vertical height of the paddle, and paddle velocity. That's the vertical velocity of the paddle. So over here, for example, this distance right here allows me to keep track of where the center of the paddle is. And then I also have a variable that keeps track of the velocity. Why do I need that? Because I'm going to use a velocity control method to move the paddle up and down in a natural manner. In particular, I'm going to use the W and S key, or the up arrow and the down arrow keys to do this. So as you look through the template, you may want to take a look back at these 2 slides to help understand what we're doing inside the template. Okay, let's take a look at the program template for Pong. So the first thing to do, let's just fire it up. So when we run it, we see a frame here. And the canvas actually just corresponds to the Pong table. We've drawn kind of a horizontal line here that splits the table in half, your ball will spawn right here in the middle of this line. And notice we've drawn 2 extra lines. These correspond to the gutters. The gutters are offset from the left and right sides of the table by the width of the paddle. And we've introduced gutters again to make kind of handling when the ball strikes the edge of the table easier. When it strikes the gutter, either the point is over or it bounces off the paddle by just essentially negating the horizontal component of the ball's velocity. This keeps us from having to deal with the case whenever the ball bounces off of the corner of the paddle, which is actually fairly complicated. Let's take a look at the tempo in more detail. We have a number of constants we've defined for you, including the height and width of the table, the height and width of the paddle. We have these 2 constants here, left and right, that we're going to use in this helper function here. This helper function is called spawn ball. And what it does is it's a function that you call whenever you need to basically spawn a new ball in Pong. That happens when you maybe start a new game or whenever the previous point is over. If we call the direction to be left, then we'll make sure that we spawn this new ball with a velocity that's kind of upwards and left. And if the value for direction is right, then we'll spawn a ball that's kind of going upward and right. This helper function new game here will be the event handler for our new game button. Notice that new game will call spawn ball inside it. Here we have the draw handler. We've already drawn the lines here corresponding to the midline and the gutters. We're going to put in some code that's going to update the position of the ball. We're going to need to put in some code that draws the ball. We're going to need to put in some code that updates the vertical position of the paddle, keeping the paddle on the screen. We're going to need to have some code that draws the paddles here. And then finally we need to draw the scores. Now another thing we're going to have is we're going to have key handlers, because remember we're going to use the keys to control the velocities of the paddle. If the key is down, the paddle is moving it up and down at a constant velocity. When we release the key and let it up, the paddle stops its motion. So you're going to need to use both key up and key down handlers to track kind of what's going on with the paddles and make them move in the correct way. And then the final thing is we have some other calls here to kind of create the frame, register the handlers, and things like that. Overall, this is going to require about 50 lines of code on your part. I think that you'll find that it's actually going to be kind of a fun game when you get it going. This is one of the projects that students really enjoy playing a lot. So give it a shot, and next thing I'll do is let's go take a look at our implementation so you get a better feel for what it should do. So before I invite Scott in, let me just give you a quick demo of Pong here. So here we go. It's a frame. We've got the canvas here. This is the Pong table. Here you have the ball. It's kind of following the ball physics mode. Most important thing is we have these lines. These are the gutters. The paddles are sitting flush to the gutters. We can control the paddles. On the left-hand side, we use the W and the S keys. On the right-hand side, we use the up arrow and down arrow keys. I'll play it against each other for a sec. Oh, I've already lost. I'm so bad. And one thing to notice here is I play, the ball starts to move slowly faster and faster. That's important to keep these games from going on forever. It's pretty easy. I don't think there's anything too complicated here. Like I said, 50 lines of code. So let's just move on. I'm going to go ahead and invite Scott in, and we'll finish things off by playing a game of Pong. All right, I promised you one more treat. I've invited Scott here. We're going to have one game of Pong for ultimate video game mastery. Now, Scott has assured me that he's terrible at video games.
I totally suck.
We're gonna find out here.
I do have my lucky tie on today, though.
Oh, you know what? I better get a lucky tie too, then I guess, so we can even that out. I'm not going to be wearing a tie in this class.
All right, shall we try?
Yeah.
Put the window on top.
All right, here we go. Let's crank it up.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm doing all right so far.
Yeah, well, you're already at least talking more than John did.
Well, that's not hard. Let's get kind of fast.
Let's see if you put up more of a fight. Okay. Yeah, that's stupid. Oh, respawning. Jeez. What's going on with this? All right, I got this.
Hey, it's not my fault you can't get up there.
All right. I got it.
Okay. Let's game is kind of slow and boring.
Yeah, I was wondering how it became like such a famous video game here. All
When you got nothing else to play, I guess.
Oh, I was a little bit too. Oh, what was that?
What are you talking about?
I hit that with my paddle.
I didn't see that.
All right. You got a lucky shot there. Ooh, I like this.
Ooh, it's going a little fast.
What is this? The ball.
Uh-oh.
Let's have that happen again. I like that one.
I didn't like that
How'd you get a third point anyways? Wait a second.
I don't like
Wait, I thought it. All right. I got this. What was that?
What are you talking about?
That was like.
I win!
What was you with that ball? The ball was like, what are you doing now? Hey, let's just look at this real quick here. What? What does it say? Rainbows and unicorns?
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
I think we're going to have a forensic investigation of what version of Pong we were playing here.
All
right.
No, you wrote it.
I don't remember having rainbows and unicorns in my code. All right. We're going to have the World Video Game Authority come in and have a thorough investigation here, and I'll report back when we have the solution video on here. But for now, all right, I'm going to give Scott credit. He put up a good fight there, so.
A win is a win.
All right, we'll see you in a bit.